Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Steve Gallucci, CFO, Program Director at Deloitte, to discuss the first quarter Deloitte CFO Signals Survey, which tells what North America's top finance executives are thinking and doing. Steve, it's great to see you again. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Jill, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
And Steve, remind the audience what the survey is all about.
Sure. So this is the 44th quarter that we've been performing the survey. We track CFOs' expectations and sentiments on key metrics, wide-ranging issues that affect them and their organizations. This particular quarter, we had 128 respondents. About 70% of those represent companies of $10 billion plus. In terms of market cap, it represents about $3.2 trillion in market cap.
And let's start with economic optimism and how CFOs assess regional economies.
Sure. So we ask questions about three different major economies: North America, China, and Europe. And by and large, all three were looking up. CFOs reported higher optimism for North America and Chinese economies in a much more significant way. Throw some percentages at you. 29% of CFOs had a positive outlook on the North American economy, citing their outlook as good compared to just 18% in the prior quarter. In terms of China, 51% rated the economy as good and 6% as very, very good. Europe was a little more muted. It just increased marginally as being looking at as good from 5 to 7%. So all in, all three looking up, significantly up in both China and North America.
And compared to 3 months ago when we met last, how do CFOs feel about the financial prospects of their own companies?
Yeah, again, it's consistent with their outlook on the overall economy, very, very strong. Overall, the majority of CFOs feel somewhat more optimistic about their company's financial prospects across all different spectrums, including revenue, wages, hiring, capital spending, and the like. Again, led by North America, followed by China, and then thereafter Europe. But again, across all three, very, very positive. More than half, 57%, feel somewhat more optimistic about their company's financial prospects. 10% significantly more optimistic. We measure something called net optimism. That was plus 64% in this particular quarter. In the last quarter, plus 42%. So again, significantly up across all dimensions.
And that said, do CFOs think it's a good time to be taking on greater risk?
Absolutely. Nearly a survey high, the majority of CFOs reported an increased appetite for risk-taking, which we see as indicating confidence in the economy as well as their own business performance. 66% have an increased appetite for risk-taking compared with 49% in the fourth quarter of 20. This is near a survey high of 69% going all the way back to 2018 in the first quarter.
And how about expectations for return to on-site work? How many days per week do they expect the majority of finance staff to return? And will vaccinations be required?
Yeah, this is where we're really starting to see what the post-pandemic finance organization will look like. By and large, the headline is, for the most part, no one expects the majority of CFOs do not expect their teams to be in for 5 days a week. 58% of CFOs expect their finance staff to work 2 or 3 days a week on-site and obviously 2 or 3 days a week off. Most, 76%, 3 out of 4 expect a lot more work to be done remotely post-pandemic. Only 15% expect no change. On the topic of vaccinations, which you mentioned, only 18% will say they require vaccinations in some form of a return to work. 41% of CFOs do not expect any vaccination requirements. 35% are still undecided. So really started to see a clear picture there also too.
It's really interesting to see how CFOs are recognizing the productivity that can be achieved at home. So with my last question, do CFOs expect post-pandemic travel expenses to be as a percentage of pre-pandemic levels? Any increase or decrease there?
Yeah, certainly trending down. Majority of CFOs agree that business travel expenses will drop considerably post-pandemic. Specifically, 73% of CFOs expect travel expenses post-pandemic to be 50 to 80% of pre-pandemic levels, as measured by percentage of pre-pandemic travel expenditures. So clearly a trend down there overall in terms of business travel.
Interesting. Steve, great to see you as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.